This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic. Hi, I'm Huell, and for us, this is a first, because this is the first time we have ever started one of our adventures outside the state of California. Right now, we're here in Sparks, Nevada, which is right next to Reno, up here near Lake Tahoe. But don't worry, we're heading west into California in just a minute, and we're going to be traveling on something that is very historic. This trip promises to be not only scenic, but educational and exciting as well. So if you're in a mood to travel, all you have to do is pack up your bags and join us as we continue our search together, this time heading west for California's gold.
A thrilling Vista Dome adventure.
Was quite a sight. This beautiful big silver train, which traveled from Oakland to Chicago and back, slicing right through the heartland of America and passing through some of the most spectacular scenery in Northern California, through the Feather River Canyon up in the High Sierra. Now, it was called the California Zephyr, and this train, with its revolutionary, shiny, stainless steel Vista Dome cars, quickly became a big hit with the passengers. It operated from 1949 to 1970, just 21 years. But in those few years, this train, the California Zephyr, literally became a legend. But today, Amtrak runs its own modern version of the California Zephyr from Oakland to Chicago. The California route these days is a little different from the original Zephyr route, but it still passes through some beautiful California scenery, going over Donner Summit, the route of the nation's first transcontinental railroad. And guess what? There's still one of the original California Zephyr stainless steel Vista Dome cars in existence. And we were invited to go for a ride on it, go back in time, and reminisce about the good old days. What is it about the Zephyr, the old California Zephyr, that made this train so special?
I guess the thing to answer that is to say that it was smart marketing and taking advantage of the natural surroundings that you have, telling the public that you had 2 days of scenery, that you didn't have to cross Wyoming, that when you left San Francisco, first day was through the Feather River Canyon, the second day was through the Rockies, not around them, and you had beautiful scenery. After the war, we could see that our market, we couldn't go after the businessman's market because the old city of San Francisco, 150 miles shorter and 8 hours faster.
So there were faster trains
from
San Francisco to Chicago.
Yeah, because the businessman was in a hurry. We knew that the airlines would take those away from us eventually, so we concentrated on what we could do best, and that is a leisurely yet comfortable trip across the United States. We banked on what old Kennard used to say, half the fun is getting there, and that's what we played on.
The scenery.
The scenery, and that's what sells long-distance train travel today.
And that's our cue to go up to what it was that made the Zephyr so absolutely special and wonderful and unique. We are now in...
This is the answer. The Vista Dome. And when we planned this train, we put 5 of them on. We had an 11-car, what we call in the railroad business, consist. And it was a fixed consist. We didn't switch cars in or out of the train at any time between San Francisco and Chicago. We stayed with it, and we put 5 of these cars on, each seating 24, all in forward seating, so the people could look up and look down and look all around and savor the scenery.
So the idea was that when you were going cross country in one of these Vista Domes, and how did they come up with the name Vista Dome?
There were various things. General Motors coined Astra Dome, had pleasure domes over on the Santa Fe, but we and the two partner railroads, the Rio Grande and the Burlington, picked Vista because that's what you're doing. You're looking at the vistas. And we could seat half of the people of the train up here, 120 seats, 5 domes, and your train normally carried about 250. But it was tough getting them out. We didn't reserve the seats up here, and if you had to go to the bathroom, boy, somebody locked your seat right now.
So once you got on the Vista Dome, you stayed up here or had somebody save your seat for you.
That's right, you lost your seat. That's right. And we wouldn't sell the seats. They were for the pleasure of the people. You had assigned seats on the lower level, or if you're in the sleeping cars, you had your roomette or bedroom.
Was this a totally new concept at the time?
Yes, yes. Although Switzerland had done a scenic car on the Alpine Express, and there were other similar cars elsewhere in the world, but this was the first time this concept. You could still seat 46 people, and from an economic standpoint, most of your passenger cars say 44 or 48 at the time, so we weren't sacrificing anything. By lowering it, we had the lavatories are beneath the dome, so the whole thing was set up for people to see the scenery.
Well, you can really get a wonderful view out these things. You've got this one. Why was this window put here? Looking up.
Look up, because you're going through the 5 canyons of the Colorado. When you're going through those 5 canyons, they are spectacular, and they go higher than what we're doing now.
So you would literally be looking up.
Look up, look down, and that's how we sold it. Our ad said, look up, look down, and look all around.
Are you looking up?
I'm looking up.
Are you looking down?
I'm looking down.
Are you looking all around?
I'm looking all around.
See, your marketing strategy is still working today.
It paid off because by 1954, we had captured 60% of the transcontinental business out of the San Francisco Bay Area. When we started the train in 1949, we had 10% of the business. So it caught on.
Was there ever any doubt that this would work?
Lots of doubt. Lots of
what
head
was the
shaking.
doubt? What was the doubt?
Railroaders believe in the status quo. Railroaders don't want to rock the boat. If you go to an operating vice president's office today and you have a question, the first answer you get is no. So you had to overcome a lot of anti-sentiment. We didn't do this in the 1920s. We didn't have domes, so why do it now? But the marketing and the public relations people proved them wrong. And it got to the point where we didn't advertise at all in the summer times. We didn't dare because we didn't have the space to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a concept that had to arrive.
Well, it arrived in a big way.
Extremely popular. It became, we touted it as the most talked about train in the country.
Now, what do you mean the most talked about train?
The best mode of advertising is word of mouth. And one person would ride and tell his friends, her friends, whatever. And that's most of our business. Could be in a smaller railroad like the Western Pacific, we didn't have a big advertising budget. And this was our only train. And so we kept our advertising to the holiday magazines of the day, the market that we knew we could attract.
Oh boy, look at this. We're going right through
That's forest.
Oh, this is beautiful. And there's so many places where you curve so that you can see the front and the back of the train from
That's
sitting
part
up
of the
here.
fun. And at nighttime, you sat up here in the dome and you watched the signal lights change.
Look, you can see the front of the train, and we're right by the river. Look at this. Oh boy, this is.
Well, the dome was the answer of the time.
Now, one of the most interesting parts of the whole California Zephyr legacy is the Zephyrette. And we are standing here with an ex-Zephyrette right now.
Hi, how are you? Welcome aboard the Zephyr.
Now, is that the way you would have said it?
Most likely, yes.
What were your responsibilities?
Well, we were public relations. Make sure that all our passengers were happy, comfortable. We did first aid. We did dinner reservations. We did PA announcements. We would be talking about the Feather River Canyon right now. And also we did baby bottles, warmed them up, telegrams, luggage tickets, anything that was necessary to make our passengers happy.
Now, how many Zephyrettes would be on each train?
There were 11 total Zephyrettes, 1 Zephyrette per train.
Per car?
Per train. We
Per
walked the whole train. Right.
So you were in charge of 200 passengers.
That's correct. And
well, that kept you busy.
It sure did. We started at 7 or 7:30, sometimes went to 10, 11, or 12, depending on the train.
Now, were the people good people? Were the passengers demanding, or was everybody so happy to be on the train that the whole thing was a pleasure?
It was a pleasure. They were great. They really were. We had sing-alongs on the train to keep everybody happy. We had fans not only on the train, but we had fans off the train at different stops that would meet the Zephyrettes. We had one friend that would meet us in Creston, Iowa with candy bars and flowers every time we got off.
Really?
We had another gentleman who used to meet us at Grand Junction, and for Christmas would give us a pint of whiskey, and when the train came off, he would give us 50 cents to go back to college.
Really? Oh,
So
now,
we
was
had our
this
own
something
time
you did while you were still in college?
Yeah, I did it for, it was paid so well, it paid $450 a month, that I did it so I could go to school. So I did it summer times, Christmas, Easter, and then on call whenever they need me.
And here is a picture that's very interesting.
That's a picture of my husband. He was a brakeman on the Zephyr, and we met on the Zephyr and began dating after the Zephyr came off and got married in 1971.
So this was a marriage made on the Zephyr.
Yes, it was. We even had a Zephyr around our wedding cake.
Now here is your husband right here. We're still on the Zephyr.
Yes, sir.
This is you back in...
Much younger time in my life.
Now we're sitting here in the Vista Dome with two ladies who are absolutely hooked on the California Zephyr, and you first got hooked back when?
Got hooked probably when I was about 4 years old, and my mother used to take me to San Francisco shopping on the Del Monte. But then in 1949, my mother and dad and another family with their daughter decided to take us back east on the California Zephyr, and that did it. That absolutely made the rail fan out of me.
Now, what was it about that trip in 1949? Because actually the Zephyr had just started making its run.
Well, it was this, it was the scenery, and one of the things was spending the whole time sitting in the front seat in the Vista Dome, and my friend and I would run up first thing in the morning and we'd get into the front seat, and then we'd save it back and forth all day, run down and get something to eat, so that we were in the front seat of the Vista Dome. And I'm sure that everybody on that ride just thought we were pretty bad, but would expect at 12 years old.
And what did you see out of the Vista Dome? Can you remember?
Yes, I can remember the train, seeing the train go around the curves. I remember how beautiful the Feather River was. Feather River Canyon was just gorgeous. I remember Colorado. I remember going through the Moffat Tunnel. I remember trout being taken on someplace in, I think, Colorado, and they served it for dinner that night, which was rather exciting because there it was with this little eyeball peering up off the plate, and I didn't like that.
Now, I've seen home movies you made.
And my father took the home movies. He, by the time he died, he had something like 7,000 feet of home movies, which I had put on videotape. And yeah, I'm just sorry he didn't take more. I really am.
You saved everything
Yes, I'm a packer.
from that trip.
Yes.
Now, here are the menus.
Right.
You've got the timetable, you've got the ticket stubs, you've got the brochures.
Sure. And ticket stubs, and because it was a very big highlight of my life. And I knew it always was going to be, and I always wanted to ride it again. And, well, in some ways, I'm back on it now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you are back on it.
That's right.
Does it have, well, it couldn't have exactly the same feel.
No, but it's the same beautiful countryside. It's our beautiful state of California, and it goes, when it goes east, it goes through the same beautiful country. Sure, it's
Yeah.
a great ride.
And you're still hogging that seat and not letting anybody else have it.
Right on, right on.
Now we're getting ready to do something a little different.
Yes, we're going to go in a rat hole, as the railroaders call them. This is a 2-mile tunnel that pierces Donner Summit. We'll crest the divide here and then start down on the Pacific watershed here in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Now, how many tunnels did the original Zephyr cut through?
44 of them on the Western Pacific alone, of which one was a 2¼ mile tunnel, the Spring Garden Tunnel, similar to the one we're in. Most of them were shorter tunnels, however. And then when you got over in the Rio Grande Railroad, you went through another 25.
So really, going through the tunnels and being up here in the Vista Dome in the dark was part of it.
We kept the lights on. Except sometimes at night.
Wait a minute, where's our Zephyrette? Come on up here and talk to us. Did you have to warn the passengers or alert them, or did you just kind of let them find out on their own?
We let them know, and we also told them about how many tunnels there were. And we went through the Rockies through the Moffett Tunnel, and we always announced that ahead of time.
How long?
6 miles long.
So that was a long time in the dark.
Yes, it was.
Wow. It's got a real...
You probably remember the whole...
It's got a real funny... It's got a real funny feeling. In all this glass, we've gone into pitch black here.
That's correct. But you know, some people do have tunnel phobia, so you'll find them. I remember that you'd have people that would go elsewhere in the train because they didn't want to be, especially in the longer tunnels.
Can you remember the tunnels from your trip?
Yes, I remember particularly in the Feather River there was a whole bunch of them. In fact, there's a couple they called the honeymoon tunnels. They were very close together. There were 2 of them very close together.
Now wait a minute. Why were they? Wait a minute. Why were they?
Tunnels just below Eldon. They're still there, of course, and we took a lot of our publicity shots of honeymoon tunnels because they were close together.
Ah.
Okay? I don't need to draw a picture.
You were a marketing man, weren't you? Now we're walking down the aisleway, and we are heading for the galley. And a small galley it is. Now we are here. What is your exact title?
I'm just chef aboard the Silver Lariat for this trip.
You are the chef aboard this train.
That's correct.
Now, what is it like being a chef in a space this small?
Actually, it's great because you don't waste a lot of movement. You don't have to walk around. Everything has got to be within your fingertips. And so you don't waste a lot of energy. It's rather easy. You have to be really organized. And you have to know how to shuffle things around so that you can work with small or large quantities of food.
And from the looks of things, if this is any indication of the kind of food that the passengers of the original California Zephyr ate, they ate very well.
It's very similar. Yeah, they had wonderful meals out there. I believe the California Zephyr even had an Italian night on board. They had specialties throughout the train that certain chefs and certain crews would put on the menu for that night. And so you not only had the regular menus that you would expect on the Zephyr, but also specialties that would surprise you from day to day.
Gourmet?
Gourmet, yes. Yes, and a lot of the trains, especially the California Zephyr, would fix you things. Anything that you came up and ordered during the night, there was always a chef on duty.
Really?
And if you wanted a special snack, a Waldorf salad, some caviar or something like that, there was a chef on duty to take care of that for you.
You mean if I came to you at 2 o'clock in the morning on the Zephyr and said I want a Waldorf salad,
right,
I'd get it?
You would sure get it, yeah. There would have been 4 chefs on board, full-time, and one of those would have stayed up during the night and slept during the day. And he would have done the prep work and taken care of. I need to.
Are we burning your?
Up our lunch? No. What I'm doing is reducing the sauce. It's the drippings from the steak, and it's pepper, garlic, and basil sauce in here. And then I deglaze the pan with bourbon, Jack Daniels, and put cream in it. And that's going to be the steak on the sauce on our steak.
Wow.
Luncheon is now being served. Luncheon is now being served.
Now this was part of it, wasn't it?
Oh, it certainly was. We're doing it in a coach, and they would have been doing this in the dining car, and they would have walked through the train with the chimes in all the cars to announce the meals.
Now that is such old world. It has such a wonderful feel to it.
Yes, it does, and that's one of those traditions that we just don't want to lose.
So you've really tried to recreate the way the dining experience would have been like. And what was that dining experience?
Typically it was on a par with the better hotels and restaurants of the time. White linens, crystal glassware, fine china, good hearty meals, typically very American meals.
Now, I have seen this menu. I've got an old menu that actually Carol saved from her first trip on the Zephyr back in 1949, and it's amazing the kinds of things that were served on a train like this.
Well, we'd have prime rib of beef, we'd have New York steaks, we'd have pheasant on the glass.
Now, you didn't have to worry about it being too much motion because this was such a smooth riding train, right?
The train was smooth riding on it, and also the fellas had built-in stabilizers, okay?
Oh, you had your own built-in stabilizer.
Yeah, that's right.
So you would learn how to...
You had to, otherwise sometimes they were, back in that time, they'd do 100 miles an hour, and they'd hit a little curve, and you'd better know how to straighten up, okay?
Nobody ever spilled any food, did they?
Of course not. Of course not. We didn't spill anything, because if we did, then we wouldn't be working. Yeah. So
well, that was part of the professionalism, and this really was thought of as a profession.
Yes, it was. It was a profession. And also, if had some people in the Pullman cars back there that wanted to eat in their rooms, we had a waiter that we call a train waiter. He'd put a little donut on his head, and he'd sit the tray up there, and he'd go through, and he'd open the door.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh, yes.
He would put the tray on his head?
He'd make a little donut out of a napkin, and he'd set it up there, like you see the natives do with the baskets, and he'd carry it right on through the train.
I've never heard of that
and
before.
there were some waiters that would take two orders. He'd have one in his hand and one on his head, and the doors were automatic. He'd take his foot and open the door. We had to have tall waiters for that. Wow. Yeah, and open the door and go right on through.
So there were a lot of tricks of the trade.
Very many tricks of the trade.
Well, I'm sitting here with Ted Benson, who, along with Bruce McGregor, wrote this book, Portrait of a Silver Lady. The train they call the California Zephyr. You have photographed this train back when it was still running in the 60s.
Yeah, 66, 67.
Was it a photographer's train?
Oh, it was gorgeous. The stainless steel would pick up any kind of light. It didn't matter what kind of lighting situation you had, whether it was overcast or bright sunny days. Just this train just kind of provided its own illumination wherever it went. So all you had to do is kind of, get the right exposure and be there.
Now the idea was it was stainless steel.
Right. There was, very little exterior. The only color was silver, with the exception of the black lettering on it.
And the lines were sleek. How would you describe the way it was designed?
Oh, it's so aerodynamic. Just the way the fluting would go, and then the lines on the domes. Basically, this thing just became a mirror. I mean, the easiest way to describe the train is it just became a mirror and would reflect, any kind of lighting situation you happen to be in.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah,
out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be out there, just this one little tiny sliver of light, and that was the Zephyr.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Right. It photographed well at night, didn't it?
Very well. Any kind of light source that you had to work with, the thing just picked it up and would magnify it.
You got a lot of people pictures in here, too.
Well, that was the one thing about the California Zephyr. It was a people train. It was the thing about passenger trains in general, and especially the Zephyrs, is it was just so personal. You got to know the crew members over the period of years, and you all had a history. There was a real kind of a family feel to go out and photograph the CZ.
Now, when you rode the Zephyr that first day, what were your expectations? What did you heard about it? What did you think it was going to be like?
Well, I had gone down to the yard and seen the equipment, so I had an idea what it looked like. But to ride high up on a train, no, that was new, and I could taste it. I was so interested.
Yeah.
And not disappointed.
Yeah.
So whenever I had a chance, I did it. And now your newest equipment, the cars up front, you don't have the view from those high-level cars that you have from a Vista Dome.
Yeah. So the Vista Dome really was all that it was cracked up to be.
I think very special equipment, and it was a shame when it had to bite the dust. A couple times since I've ridden in this kind of a car up in Canada, but that's it.
Well, what is it like for you to come back, and does it feel the same? Does it look the same? Does it have the same?
Brings back a lot of wonderful memories, and I still say it's too bad that we don't have them in service, particularly in the western mountains. They're so great.
Yeah. Well, there'll never be another Zephyr, will there?
No, there will not. Sure, I like Amtrak trains. They're fine, and they do a good job, but this is in a class all its own.
Well, the word was class, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed it was. And you hate to use a trite expression, but now enough time has passed that we're talking about the good old days.
On any trip across this exciting land of ours, there is much to see. And the California Zephyr offers the best way ever devised to see it all on the Vista Dome. Many passengers waste no time in finding a seat in one of the 5 spacious domes. This was the first transcontinental Vista Dome train. In fact, the whole train was designed around the Vista Dome idea. Other trains have since added domes, but the California Zephyr still has more than any other, and is the only train traveling a route with so much to see, and scheduled to see the best of it during daylight hours. During a brief stop at Mile High, Denver, the train gets a complete shower bath to ensure that the train is sparkling clean. It's interesting to watch the process from inside one of the Vista Domes. The dome windows get an extra special scrubbing. For the passengers, there's carefree luxury and relaxation. The spacious rooms of the California Zephyr provide full-sized beds for 2 people. Invite restful slumber at the end of an adventurous day. As the train begins its journey down the fabulous Feather River Canyon, over 100 miles of breathtaking beauty, most passengers seek the vantage point of a Vista Dome, or the observation lounge in the rear car. In the upper canyon, there's an ever-changing panorama of forested hillsides, thick stands of pine and spruce, which grow straight and tall in the California sunshine. Winter or summer, spring or fall, the California Zephyr offers the matchless way to see the matchless variety of beauty on the scenic route across America. Truly a memorable Vista Dome adventure.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you'd like to see it again or share it with your family or friends, all you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.